Good morning. Namaste. I invite you to take a deep breath into your belly with me. Slowly exhaling as you just feel everything that needs to fall away, fall away. One of my greatest teachers says that every time we exhale, it's a chance to let go of something. Inhale fully and exhale again. You can make a sigh if that feels good to you. Once more, and I'm definitely going to make a sigh. Let your eyes come into the space you're in and kind of see it like it's the first time you're seeing it, whether you're outside or inside, and try to look around without judgment or blame. Don't notice what needs to be done, just notice things for exactly as they are. And notice them from that space of the witness where you're not doing anything about it. You're not making some logical conclusion. You're just allowing everything to be the way it is and noticing the way that it is. You could do that for 30 minutes and make it into a meditation. Just noticing this beautiful mug and all the work that went into it. This is made by my high school best friend. So once you get settled in your mind and you're ready to begin the sacred Sunday Sadhana, I invite you to get something to drink or whatever it is that you need to feel grounded and sacred. Do something different than you do the other 6 days of the week. Make this time for you. And if you're seated in a chair, I encourage you to come to the front of the chair instead of leaning back here, because this is cool. Like this is my chillin' posture if I'm watching a show or if I'm writing in my journal maybe. But when we're engaged in a sort of space where we really want to be conscious with ourselves, it can feel really good to have a long spine. And so I like to come to the edge of a chair. I don't like chairs, first of all, but if I'm going to be in a chair, on the edge of the chair, I can let my knees drop down lower than my hips, which is always the goal. So if you're in a yoga class and you're sitting on a bolster, that's so that your knees can go lower than your hips and you're doing a great service to your hips. Whereas sitting in a chair, whether you're at the computer or whatever you're doing, sitting is not an ideal posture for the body, especially as we age. Men and women, it starts to really injure the hips and low back. So whenever you can, get those knees lower than the hips. Today I wanted to talk about equanimity. And this has been coming up a lot, especially recent election and just the pandemic and sort of not knowing what's going to happen. We've all just been kind of thrust into this space of needing to be okay with not knowing. Because really, if you have like a solid alignment with your center, you don't need to know what's about to happen in order to feel safe, in order to feel happy. You can just sort of watch the world with curiosity and notice, oh, this is what's happening now. And then you kind of get in the groove. And that's easier said than done. And it's easier for some than it is for others, just based on your constitution. My sun is in Gemini, and that makes it very easy for me to move from one thing to the next. And I enjoy things being different all the time. I enjoy not knowing what's going to happen. I don't like to watch previews for movies. I'd rather just show up and see what's going to happen. But it's different when it comes to trying to plan, life for my children and etc. It's a little different than watching a movie. Or is it? So equanimity is a skill. And the definition I wrote down, the definition of equanimity is mental calmness and composure. That's all it means. It means finding that spot where you're neither attached nor abhorred by what's happening. So it's kind of like whenever we get into that witness state, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which we all have, that's where we can access that equanimity. And that's why these yogic principles, they're not just great for being on the mat and stretching your body and getting strong and yada yada. It's essential that you not only have a meditation practice for which you need to acquire that allowance of being inside your Vijnanamaya kosha, the witness body, but it's also essential just in living your life minute to minute, that you're able to come to this space of just observing and being the observer, being the witness, being able to access your wisdom by being still enough and noticing what's really happening without getting hooked into a story, without getting hooked into a pattern of thinking, habitual tendencies. All these things get in the way. So, very basic, let's just go back to the koshas. The 5 koshas of yoga, which this is an Ayurvedic practice that yoga has borrowed from Ayurveda. I love when the ancient wisdoms overlap and come together, even when, they're developed in different times in different parts of the world, and mostly pre-literate cultures. Somehow the wisdom seeped over into each other, and to me that speaks to just proof of consciousness, that really we all are connected by some universal consciousness. If I'm able to transmit my thoughts to someone in a different section of the world without access to travel, without access to writing, what other explanation can there be except that we can move beyond our bodies and reach into something much more powerful and profound, and sort of download and upload messages to each other subconsciously. So I'm getting in a little deep territory there, but let's go to the koshas. So there's the 5 koshas, the 5 layers of being. The body that we see and that we sometimes think that we are, and we get kind of hooked in. This is the Annamaya kosha, the food body, made of food. We are what we eat. This is what we're talking about. You are what you eat, although in Ayurveda we say you are what you can digest. You're not necessarily what you eat. It depends on how wonky your microbiome is. So anyway, this body is made of food, the Annamaya kosha. Underneath that is the Pranamaya kosha, the energetic body. Any of the movement that's happening in your body, that's the energetic body. You can be still enough and feel the vibration and sensation in your fingertips and toes if you focus. And if you can't, you will be able to just enhance your meditation practice and you'll be able to feel that. So that's the Pranamaya kosha. And then there's the Manomaya kosha. This is another one that we really attach to a lot, and we act like that is what we are. We are our thoughts. I am my emotions. We even say, like, I am sad. But actually we have sadness. We are not sad. So the Manomaya kosha refers to our thoughts and our emotions. Everything that we think, everything that we feel. It's this layer of being, and it's information, and it informs us and it shapes the decisions that we make and how we move through this beautiful body and this beautiful world. But we are not our mind. And then the 4th layer, those are the 3 more less subtle layers, more gross layers. And then we get into the 2 subtle layers, which are the wisdom body, the Vijnanamaya kosha. From the wisdom body, you're just the witness, noticing that chair is black and contains swirls. This padding is colorful and was wet recently. It's a different kind of narrative that is running in the Manomaya kosha, which is sort of assessing all the time. And that's part of our humanness. The mind needs to assess. We've got that beautiful amygdala that's like the bodyguard of our entire system, of our computer system, noticing what's a threat. Are you a threat? Is that a threat? Is this a threat? What's going to threaten me? And the amygdala works together with the hippocampus and all the other beautiful parts of the brain to determine, like, what's a threat, what's not a threat. I can relax, I need to not relax. So the witness body, the narrative is a little different. It's more just like noticing. This is this, that is that. It's noticing I am chilly, instead of getting hooked into, oh, I'm so cold, I am so cold. Like, no, I have chilliness, etc. So from that witness body, that's the place where we can meditate. It's the place where we can actually hear our intuition. And it's really the only place that we can be truly present, when we just kind of step out of that manomaya kosha, step out of the mind and just notice, like, what's real? What's really happening? What's the constant stream of emotional feedback that I'm giving myself about what's happening? And what's actually happening? What are the facts here? What's solid? What's real? That's the Vijnanamaya kosha. And then the innermost kosha, the Anandamaya kosha, the bliss body. It's maybe the hardest to understand, maybe the easiest to understand, just depending on where you are and how you are wired. But it's your true self. It's who you really are. It's the seed of energy and love and light and life within you. It's part of a whole. The universe is inside of you while you are inside of the universe. It doesn't fit in a linear fashion. There's no way to see it and hold it and smell it. It's not part of our five senses. It simply is. We don't deserve it. We don't earn it. We don't work for it. It just is. Because we are, it is. And we are because it is. So, those are the koshas. So, if we want to practice an attitude of equanimity, then we need to get inside that wisdom body. We have to be just noticing what we notice. And I love this. So equanimity is one of the 4 immeasurables in Buddhism, or one of the 4 sublime attitudes, depending on how you see that translated. But in Buddhism, it is said that equanimity is neither a thought nor an emotion. It is the state of conscious realization of reality's transience. So basically just consciously realizing that this is changing. Always, always, always. Nothing is a certain way. You can't put everything in a box because everything is moving. Energy is movement. Energy is constant. There's a lot of science intrinsically as part of spirituality, and I was gonna say I get sad when people can't seem to see that they are one and the same, science and spirituality. But you know what? I'm just gonna let go of sadness in that, instead just notice, because I would like to hold this with equanimity. Some people can't see that spirituality and science go together. That is what it is. I have no emotion around that. I can let that go. So if we're embracing equanimity, we can start really small. Maybe you have a teenage daughter you can practice with. Maybe she can say some shit that seems really mean. And instead of taking it personally and like making a thing out of it, maybe you can just notice, okay, this is what she said. This is the way I feel about it. This is a stage of life that she is in, and that happened. And getting my coffee. You know, it's, you can start like that with anybody in your house. It doesn't need to be a teenage daughter. It could be a cat. This is what has happened. It isn't because of anything else. It is just, this is just what has happened. The fact is the fact. And if you can do that, if you can be in this space where like you're removing emotion from your observations, then it frees you up to get into that wisdom space where you just inherently know what to do. You feel peace. And really, we're not in constant pursuit of happiness, are we? We're in constant pursuit of peace. I don't need to be giddy and laughing all the time. If I did, I would just be like forever tuned into YouTube fart jokes, and I would just be laughing. But that isn't what I crave. Like, I crave connection. I crave intimacy. I crave peace. Peace is what we're after. I just want peace. I want to be in that stillness where I can respond and dream and go about my life in a way that is healthy. So equanimity, whether the results of an election are what you wanted them to be and what you hoped they would be, or whether they're nothing like you wanted and it just feels like the world is full of despair. Or maybe you're in the camp with most people where it's kind of like, I don't know, both just kind of seems like there isn't a way to win in this situation. Instead of creating a narrative in your mind about what's happened, about what's happening, about what's going to happen, about what might happen, about what did happen, about what caused all the things, like you can just get stuck in that web of thinking. But you could also just free yourself out of that. Like, you have the keys to your cell. You can let yourself out of this jail that you put yourself in. The keys to emotional freedom are within. So equanimity is the way to get there. And the way to get to equanimity is to really cultivate that wisdom space, that witness space. And it's different than having your head in the sand. It's different than just saying, I don't give a shit. It's just more like saying, okay, I'm noticing what's going to happen. I'm noticing. I'm not going to formulate some opinion and plan based on this, based on that. I'm not going to get really excited and really happy because this happened. Instead, I'm just noticing, like, neat. So that happened. Okay, what does that open up? What does that feel like for me? What does it feel like that this is the outcome of that? Okay. Just like noticing and using fact in every single moment is the key. There's this story, it's an old Buddhist story. I've really been heavy on the Buddhism lately, but really I embrace any wisdom that comes along that speaks to my heart. I'm in it. Sometimes Buddhism is very dogmatic and just doesn't seem right for me. But this particular story I love. And this is the Sally version of it. So if you know this story and I'm getting the details off, try to just embrace that with equanimity. There is a man whose horse runs away from his farm. He has 2 horses and one runs away, and the village says, oh, you poor thing, I'm so sorry, that's so horrible. It's harvest season, that's the most horrible thing ever. And he's like, maybe. And then the horse comes back and brings an extra horse with it. And they're like, wow, that's the most wonderful thing that's ever happened. Oh my God, now you have 2 extra horses. You're so lucky. That's the best thing that could have ever happened. And he's like, maybe. But then in trying to tame this wild horse that the other horse brought back, his son breaks his leg. And the whole village is like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's so horrible. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. And the farmer's like, maybe. And because the son broke his leg, when war breaks out, the son is not drafted to fight, and everyone's like, oh, of course, it's so wonderful, you have the best luck, that's amazing, that's the best thing that could have happened, you don't lose your son. He's like, maybe, ... And so the story could go on and on and on, but we do that, we tend to live in that world of like black and white, like this is either great or this is horrible. But maybe we can embrace some equanimity and just like be in a state of peace. And when I choose these topics, I'm never aware until a crucial moment in the video, and this is that moment, that actually everything that we talk about is the same. So do you remember when we were talking about the roller coaster of emotions and even choosing to be in roller coaster relationships, etc.? This applies. Equanimity is the ticket out of that. Instead of needing something to be like exquisite or excruciating, like maybe we can be in the middle space of peace. Maybe we don't need that just exuberance and excruciating pain. Like maybe we can just hang out and like, oh, this is cool. This is nice. This is nice and steady. Yeah. So equanimity, I'm going to interject a different topic here, and I think it's going to fit in, but we'll see. I don't know yet. I have no mental rehearsing that comes before these videos. I've been thinking a lot about complaining and how it does nothing. It does nothing for us. I have a good friend from 4th grade who I've reconnected with, and we do Marco Polos. We send videos to each other every day, and she lives just far enough away that I don't really see her, although we could make the effort to get it together and see each other more. But we do this Marco Polo thing where we're just like videoing, and at first it was us like being silly to each other and singing, and it was such a great outlet, especially for moms who just really have it together. She's a business owner, I'm a business owner. We're both just very responsible people, so it's nice to have this outlet for like just being ridiculous. And but then slowly, little by little, instead we've been using those Marco Polos to vent, just like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and it may or may not be about our teenage daughters most of the time. But I started to realize venting actually doesn't serve the purpose that I thought it did. To vent, you know, to open up and let steam out, sure. But maybe there's another way that steam can come out. Because what I've noticed is that the more I complain, the more I get like hooked into that complaining energy where I'm just looking for something else to complain about, you know? And it just feeds negative energy into more negative energy. So rather than like being a chance to let go of something that I needed to talk about, it just kind of feels like I'm creating this cycle of complaining and then looking for something else to complain about. And that's not, I don't want to be that person. I can be there for my friends if they feel like they want to complain incessantly, but I also have boundaries. And if I know that all I'm going to hear is complaining, then I may kind of limit the amount of time that I spend and energy that I exhaust listening to that, and turn more toward things that are positive and uplifting. Because here it is, here's the tie-in. If we're ruminating so much on what went wrong and the things that we want to complain about, it's like even when things do go right, we're not even there to notice, because we're so stuck in that story of what happened and what went wrong and how it was bad. And I'm even noticing that with the election. I have friends on both sides of the crazy fence that we've created. I really like to, anyway, I have friends on both sides, and what I'm noticing is the friends who are victorious, so to speak, they're still complaining about what was happening and how bad it was. And it just seems like there's no equanimity at all. And it seems like, what was the point of all the complaining and all the negative energy and all the just really pouring your conscious and subconscious patterning into this story about change and what needed to change? What's the point of all of that if you're not ready to actually embrace change and to stop complaining about what's happening and just forge a new way? So I'm not sure what kind of territory I'm getting into there, but let me just back up and say that I don't think that complaining is the way forward. I think that anytime that we're just like caught up in the story that got us where we are, we prevent ourselves from moving to where we want to be. So by cultivating equanimity, which might seem counterintuitive, I know there's lots of people that are like, well, if you're just not going to do anything, then you're holding us back. To the contrary, I believe that we need to be still in order to feel the motion forward. We've got to be still enough and quiet enough and notice enough and come into reality where we're not vibrating on some just like stuck in the past or stuck in the future. But if we're right here, right now, aligned with that Anandamaya Kosha, aligned with universal consciousness, noticing and listening to that wisdom voice of what to do, without emotion, with just facts. This is the fact. If we can't get into that space, I don't think we can make the change. I think all we can do is continue to be squeaky wheels that don't move. So I think in order to move forward, there has to be some stillness, a place of noticing, a place of equanimity. So can you try today? Just start small. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big, ever. It's not something you have to work toward. You can keep it small all the time. And actually, you're probably going to make a much bigger effect if you can do that. If you can embody your goddess nature in the drop of water that you are, that makes a tremendous impact in the ocean, you know? Yeah. So I think that's good. I think I'm going to end there for the day. Thank you for being here with me. Let's take it just a few breaths together in equanimity. See if you can breathe in, just noticing. Breathe out, just noticing. Breathe in, and everything is just the way it is. Breathe out, everything is just the way it is. Breathe into peace. Breathe out to peace. Breathe into allowing yourself to feel really happy. Allow yourself to notice, is everything going your way? That probably feels pretty good. Maybe allow yourself to sit in what you've created. Maybe focus there on the parts that are so good instead of honing in on the parts that are not working. I said I was ending, but I have to say this too. I realized that I have a long way to go toward equanimity. Someone that is important to me recently called me effervescent, and I loved it. I love that. What a compliment. And it's true, and I am effervescent. I wouldn't say effervescent and equanimity kind of go together, but it's something that I work toward, and I definitely know how to be in my witness body. And now all I have to do is apply it. All I need to do is be, and spend more time there, and spend more time with equanimity. So I'm not perfect. I'm not pretending that I think I'm perfect. I need the lesson of equanimity. So I hope that you understand that when I do these Sacred Sunday Sadhanas, I'm really talking to me more than anybody. And then I'm just hoping that it will help someone else too. So I am working on equanimity so that I can just be peaceful without needing to be in exuberance or excruciation all the time. The equanimity inside me sees the equanimity inside you. Namaste.